We're on the sidewalk.
Yeah, my mother told me never talk to strangers, never get in a car with strangers. And here I am inviting the stranger to drive me somewhere. And he just didn't look like somebody who was going to abduct us.
Then he drove a Volvo.
I thought, he might be fit, but Bob's a lot to steal. And I'm no lightweight either. So, I think we're safe. Welcome to Season 2 of the TheKnifeWife podcast. I'm Suz, here with my husband,
Bob Terzuola.
We're professional creatives and entrepreneurs who live, love, and work together. We share our stories to find ourselves in others. P.S. This podcast has little to do with knives. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. I'm here again with my partner in crime,
Bob, that's me.
Bob Terzuola. And first of all, I want to thank everybody for all your lovely comments and encouragement about the podcast. And I look forward to this season. We have lots of entrepreneurs and individual people that are creatives, and I love creatives. And once again, we're a podcast about everything and nothing. I hope to give everybody a break from toxic media because right now it's really in the red. And I just can't go anywhere without hearing something that I don't want to hear. And a little bit, Bob is about, he's blue collar, I'm white collar. We're from different collars. We still don't have a TikTok dance, do we?
Nope.
Probably
anyway, won't have one either.
And some big things are happening pretty soon. Our tweezers, the beauty tweezers are coming out. And the Susie Tweez.
Susie Tweez. What a great name.
Well, all the other tweezer names were taken. That's how I came to it. And I just kept looking and looking and looking. And finally I said, well, what about my own name? So here we go.
We did get a prototype, and they were tested.
They were on you.
They were tested on me.
And I'd like to do a video again of me pulling unwanted hairs that grow out of your skull that I don't like. Or those wild eyebrows.
I know. I like them.
I know. Anyway, so I used them and they worked perfectly. And there's a little screaming, so that could be a good video.
They help keep the sun out of my eyes.
Right. That's coming up. And we got some big things on the horizon this year. My goal is to get with our social media by the end of 2025 to have 1 million followers. And that's where I'm going with the TheKnifeWife and with Terzuola Design. We have, YouTube, and so we have some people that are coming on that are going to help us, and because I can only do what I can do, and I'm still not doing a TikTok dance, but we're going to be on TikTok soon. Bob's an octogenarian, I'm a sexagenarian, and we're having a late in life crisis together. So that's why you hear this.
What's the crisis?
I don't know.
We
got to get it in before, they stamp our card. So,
okay.
Anyway, we're going to talk about our last few days in Italy because we didn't get to those. And I call it Back to Milano. And we took the train from Venice to Milan. And that was a little hairy, but it all worked out. We had guys that helped us get all the luggage. I did not pack lightly. And the one thing I learned that I want to pass on is I'm going to not take that second suitcase because I can have the hotel do our laundry if I need be.
Yes, I told you so.
There you go. So anyway, so now I know. And I'll ship home whatever I buy if we can't put it in a suitcase. Anyway, so when we got back to Milan on the train, and the train, of course, they have to give you food in Italy every 5 seconds. You get on the train, and Maddie is nodding his head at us, our engineer. He knows. So we get on the train, and, the food they give you a little cardboard box with some cookies and whatever in it, nothing great, and a drink. But they don't want you to go for a minute without something to eat in Italy, and I like that. Do you think that's endearing? I think it's endearing.
It was a high-speed train, not a super high speed like they have in Japan, but it was fairly fast. Do you remember the name of it? The Freccia Rossa, the Red Arrow.
So we like that. So we had a great ride on the train. We love the train. We've taken it so many times. And they used to have a dining car, which they didn't have, and you could get food, and I went up to see what was available. Nothing great. Anyway, so when we arrived back in Milan, it was now Fashion Week, and so for me, that's exciting, and I wasn't going to go to any of the shows or anything, but I people watching in Milan that week is phenomenal. And if you've ever been to Fashion Week in Paris or New York, it's the same thing. And not only are there zillions of models, but their keepers are with them, and the people who are attending these things, everyone is dressed to the nines. So I love that part. I don't know if Bob loves that part so much.
Well, I like the girls.
Yes, you do. And when we got to our hotel, the paparazzi was outside waiting for them. So I don't know who was at our hotel. They certainly weren't taking our picture. We'd come out the door and they go, oh.
I never saw so many black limos. I mean, they were all over the place.
They were. And in fact, we took a ride to see a show. We went to see an Edward Munch, huge Munch show, which was phenomenal. But we'll get to that in a minute. And our taxi driver didn't realize that we were on the street, that the Armani is the Armani block there, where he has a show, he has a store, he has a hotel. And I said to him, you should turn before we get here. And he didn't understand my English, and I didn't say it in Italian. And so we sat in traffic because it was probably 4 deep of black limos in front of the hotel. And there were also tons of guys with cameras. I mean, they were just chomping at the bit out there. So once again, they didn't even look in our car at us. And
Armani had a whole block. I didn't realize he didn't just have a store. He had the whole block full of...
He's a hotel.
Yeah, it really was.
I'd like to stay there sometime. I'd like to see what
the
it
Armani
looks like.
Hotel?
Yeah, I looked it up online when we got home. It looks pretty nice. I think we stayed at a very nice hotel, so not complaining there. The one thing about being in Italy, for breakfast every day, every hotel we went to had people juicing. And they had someone running the juice machine and cleaning it for you. And you could tell them, Bob's not really a juicer, but I'm a juicer. And so the luxury of not having to clean the machine after doing it was primo for me. And so you got to order whatever you wanted, how much fruit you wanted it, how much vegetables. They had everything, and they were all fresh and they're all organic. So it's a good place to juice. So I don't know if they have that in hotels here. I don't stay in a lot of hotels in America. I usually stay in the hotels that we go to knife shows at, and those are not juicing hotels. And anyway, so there were people dressed. I don't know. It was like watching a parade, sort of, to me. Was it like watching a parade to you, the people?
They were parading. No matter what they were doing, it's like the models, weren't only on the runway. I mean, going up and down the stairs into the hotel and in the lobby. They looked like they were maybe practicing. I don't know, but
I don't think
they were
practicing.
showing off their clothes. That's for sure.
Right. Well, and they know how to walk. I could take a lesson from them.
And while we were waiting outside on some very comfortable chairs for a friend of ours to show up, we met an individual. He had a head of hair that was enormous.
He had an afro. I only wish I could have. It was a long afro, so it kind of had a part in the middle, but it was a gorgeous and thick, curly, healthy hair.
And
he didn't wait. I don't think he had any thyroid issues at his age. My age, I couldn't do it.
So. He had, I seem to remember, like a puffy silk shirt. And
he had a white silk shirt and white gabardine pants on that were full pleated, which only someone thin can wear.
He was very, very dressed for the club, I guess you could say.
Well, he was going to a show. There were shows, morning, noon, and night there. And he told us, I said to him, are you an influencer? And he said, yes, I am. How did you know? I thought, you don't look like a model. You don't look like a designer, but you look like, you want to be seen.
An influencer.
He was an influencer, and
I always thought that meant, a person who passed out influenza. People who would get influenza and then passed it along.
I thought it might have been your grandfather on the docks influencing people. That's what I thought when I first heard the term. And so we talked to him for quite a bit, which was really lovely. And I have a thing for hand-stitched lapels. And if you don't know what a hand-stitched lapel is, look it up. At the St. Regis, all the uniforms for everyone had hand-stitched lapels. And this guy was wearing a gorgeous silk blend hand-stitched lapel blazer. Anyway, so once I got past the clothes and talked to him, I sound so superficial, but, I'm a clothes person. And he was talking about how, he was invited to many parties and he had a friend that was meeting him, and he had about 15 higher degrees. and he was getting another degree. And I said to him, none of them seem to be related to each other. And I said, what are you going to do with all these degrees? He said, I have no idea. I just like going to school. And so I thought, well, you must either be influencing at a great rate or have a very wealthy family that can put you through school constantly. So he was in Spain in school. Anyway, he was delightful. He was really funny. Then his friend came and he left, and then our friend came and picked us up. But the night before that, we were supposed to go to, well, even the day before that, we went to the Munch exhibit. And that was an exhibit that I wish I had brought something mind-altering with me once I got there.
I was there.
Yeah, at least you weren't yelling like you did at Shepherd Ferry. You weren't saying, he's a communist, blah, blah. So you were impressed. It was the biggest show I've ever seen of his, and it was really a retrospective. And then they had an immersion room, which I'm all about immersion art. I don't know, a lot of people have gone to see the Van Gogh one. We saw the Van Gogh one in Paris years ago. And it was, this floor was mirrored, the ceiling was mirrored, 3 of the walls were mirrored, and then there was about a 20-foot screen where they had music and his artwork in a revolving presentation, sort of, and it reflected again on the mirrored floors. And so when we walked in the room, what did you say, Bob?
I was dizzy.
Yeah, I'm dizzy. This is making me dizzy.
I was
can't
dizzy.
be here.
I mean, he was walking on a mirror, and the paintings that were being shown on the screen were, of course, reflected on the floor, on the ceiling, on the walls, and they were moving back. And I was, I'm not very good at balance these days, so I barely made my way across the room to the exit.
Where I said, I'll see you later. I'll catch up with you.
Yes.
Because I love immersion.
It was quite a while, actually.
Well, the reason was I decided to sit down because my knee was killing me. And so I decided to sit down and lean against one of the walls. And there was a guard there. I said, is it okay if I sit down? And she said, sure. So I sat down, and then another young person saw me and thought, oh, I'm going to sit here. She had clearly had mind-altering substances, and I had not. But it was so good, I sat through 5 of them repeatedly, and it was so good that by the 5th one, I was so moved by this immersion. I mean, I almost was brought to tears. I had a lump in my throat. It was verklempt.
I really enjoyed his painting. Now, this was Edvard?
Yes, Edvard Munch.
He's Norwegian. He was Norwegian, early to mid 20th century, I think. I guess he's most famous for a painting he did of a figure standing on a bridge holding his head called The Scream. And that Scream painting has been copied many places and put on T-shirts and shown. But it's also
parodies, a lot of parodies of The Scream.
A lot of parodies. But it's also been stolen, as I recall, like twice, maybe?
Twice. That's some frequent flyer miles for a painting.
Yeah.
But they got it back? Is that true? They got it back?
They did. And that's probably what he's most famous for. I'm not sure it was his favorite painting, but he did a lot of work, and I really enjoy. Would you call him impressionist? Was he an impressionist?
An expressionist more than an impressionist.
Yeah.
And what I found out in the show, I had seen one of his woodcuts years ago, and being a printmaker, I was just thrilled that I saw probably 10 of his etchings and several woodcuts. And he did a woodcut of The Scream because, there's only one painting. But if you do a woodcut, you can probably do a good 20, 30 prints off of that and sell those. And so it was popular even in its day, not just because later we discovered it. It was popular back then. And so we went, I finally caught up with Bob, and I collect pins from art shows. I have a material flag that hangs in my studio that from every art show I've been to, if they have a little pin, a metal pin, I have that on there. And I should put a picture of that up. Anyway, so I got a great one, of course. The Scream is what they did. And then there was, I've been collecting erasers too. They don't take up much room, and I love erasers from different shows. And they had an eraser that's lips, and I have a picture of me at the Biennale in, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, in the Biennale sitting on the red lip couch that was Salvador Dali's, one of his designs. and I happened to find a Lips couch eraser, so that thrilled me to no end. That easily fit in my suitcase.
And they had a big painting of the Scream with the face cut out, and you could stand. You could stand behind it.
Put your head in the hole.
That's right. You put your head in the hole, and you could put your hands on your ears like the figure in the painting, and you would be part of the Scream painting. And we took a couple of pictures of Susie doing that.
Yeah, another parody.
Another parody.
I'm a parody.
But I really enjoyed that exhibit. Very much.
Of all the exhibits we went to,
Far
it was
more
something you
than
get your...
Yeah, far more than I enjoyed Shepherd Ferry. That communist
Shepherd.
racist.
You have any other strong opinions on the subject? No, don't share anymore. That's enough. Anyway, so after that, we went back to our hotel, and then I had passed this store. We had passed it many times, and it was called END period. And I had never seen that store in Milan.
The end.
It was not the, it was just end.
I know. Well, to me, it was the end.
So I had seen it many times when we were driving around in an Uber or a taxi. And when we went to the Munch exhibit, we were right past to turn the corner, and there was the exhibit. So when I got out of the Munch exhibit, I looked it up on my phone, and it said, well, it's only 700 feet away. And I thought, I could walk that. I want to see what this store is. So I walk in, and Bob walks in with me. And of course, they're blaring loud hip hop music, which I love, and Bob does not. And so I started like dancing, and I had on a Mary Mecco turtleneck, and I had Yayoi Kusama high tops on and black cargo pants. And I was not planning on, a fashion show. It's just me. And so I walk in and I start dancing to this music. I said, oh my gosh, I'm in my place. And this woman comes up to me and she says, I love you. I said, really? You don't even know me. But okay, well, that's a good start. She said, I love what you're wearing. She knew everything I was wearing. She liked my jewelry. She liked I had black nails. She liked the black nails. Finally got off my nails. And she worked there. And I thought, well, she just wants to sell me stuff. But no, she wanted to know all about me. I told her about the podcast. I told her about Bob. I told her about everything. And she said, at one point, she said, he looks like he's not having a very good time. I said, no, this is not his place. So on the first floor, they had men's clothing, which, they've got to put them on the first floor because they're not going to bother to go to the second floor. They know it. They know men, shoppers. Women will go for it. And I saw all these street clothes, all these really cool street clothes. And I have a lot of street clothes. I have a lot of jackets, street jackets from different artists around the world. And they had a company called Butter. They didn't have anything in my size, but I'm going to look up Butter. Butter had some great graphics, and they were really fun. And when Bob saw me with this, he said, yeah, this is your store. This is your place, Susie. And I said to them, well, I want to go upstairs and see the women's. So I went upstairs. And the women's was not as exciting as the men's. There was no street clothes. And every shirt they had, I don't know why this has become the style, but shirts don't have bottoms to them in women's clothes. They're just cut off in the middle. And for a babe my age, that's really not a good look. You don't want to see that part. In fact, we want to cover that up most of the time. And so I said to the girl upstairs, do you have any shirts that go, like to your hip or, that aren't cut off in the middle? She looked at me like, oh, you old woman, No, we don't. So I looked and I thought, it's really boring. So I'm going to go back downstairs and buy guys' clothes, which I bought many times. So I found a great jacket and I also bought a toboggan, which is like a knit cap. I bought a jacket that had this writing all over it, kind of like graffiti, because I love graffiti. And I said to Bob before I bought it, could you look at it and make sure it doesn't say something I don't want to say, that I don't want to walk around saying? I said, it seemed to be just random words, which it was just random words, thank goodness, because I didn't want to, I don't want anyone's cause on my back, except my own. And so I bought that, and I was really happy to get that because I'd done no shopping at all in Italy, hardly, because I couldn't walk. I kissed my friend goodbye who loved me, and she has my business card, and she wrote me, and she follows me on Instagram, and she listens to the podcast, and she hopes to come to America to work in the fashion industry. She's an engineer and is getting a PhD. I mean, I don't know. All these people are getting these higher degrees with no use for them at all. And I felt bad. I said, why are you getting this? I said, do your parents want you to do it? She said, yeah. I said, yeah, I understand. My parents didn't want me to be an artist either. They certainly wouldn't have wanted me to be a podcaster. But here I am. You're stuck with me. Anyway, so that night we were supposed to have a friend come meet us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fausto.
Fausto?
But he got stuck in Parma and he couldn't leave. And so I went down to the hotel lobby and I said, we'd like to get just a pizza for dinner. I'm in Italy. You can find a pizza pretty much anywhere. But Milan is much higher fare. And because of Fashion Week, I didn't want to go to some 5-star, 4-star, 3-star restaurant that, you'd have to, I don't know what you'd have to do to get a reservation there. So I said, he goes, oh, just across the street. And across the street from our hotel meant, I don't know, a quarter of a mile walk because it had this long driveway and whatever. But he said, there's a great pizza place. They have thin Napoli pizza there. So we went, right, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
And it was delicious. And it was thin sauce. I like sort of a watery sauce on my pizza. I don't like thick pizza sauce. So I was happy. It was fresh tomatoes, and it was just out of this world. But we sat down, and there were chairs on one side, and a man came and sat down next to us by himself, and he was very well dressed. Of course, in Milan, that's redundant. And somehow how did we start talking to him? Do you remember?
You started talking to him. You asked him something about, I don't know.
Oh, no, he asked me if I was from the States.
Oh, that's right.
And I said,
yeah.
yes. And I started I'm from Texas. And I did that all over Italy. I'd say, I'm from Texas. I said, do you know where Texas is? I started doing that. And then I did the whole bit about it's a big state. We got barbecue. We got big everything. And then I talked to my regular voice and said, no, I'm not from Texas. I'm from San Diego. He said, oh, I love San Diego. And he had been there many times. And he was like an engineer, a software engineer. And he also had a side hustle of he makes packs like man bags and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, interesting. Anyway, so we talked to him all through our dinners. We ate our dinner together.
Turns out he was from Turkey.
He was from Turkey. And I'm not saying his name, although I'm going to tell him he's being talked about on the podcast because he follows me and I follow him on Instagram. But anyway, so Bob, tell us what happened.
So we chatted for a while, and it turned out to be a very interesting, nice man. And for some reason, I don't know why, I got up and I decided to pay for his pizza. And I did. I walked over to the manager and, just paid the bill. And
you didn't say anything. So he had no idea.
What was I going to say?
Well, he had no idea.
No. So I came back and he was getting ready to, to pack up, and we were getting ready to leave also. And he asked for the bill, and the manager came over and said, well, it's already paid for. The gentleman paid for it. And he was just absolutely flabbergasted. He didn't, I've done that before. It's not a big deal. What was a pizza? It wasn't that expensive. But
anyway,
he was entertaining. He stayed right with us in conversation. It was very nice having somebody to talk to with a different perspective.
Me.
Besides her. Well, actually, you and he did most of the talking, and I did most of the listening. But he was a very nice gentleman. So we all kind of got up and ready to go. He said, well, where are you staying?
No, even before that, he said, what can I do? Can I buy you a drink?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I said, well, you're with an 80-year-old and an almost 70-year-old. We're not going for a drink at 10 o'clock. We're going to bed.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, let me do something for you. What can I do for you? Whatever. And I said, I had my cane, and I was like, you could give us a ride to our hotel. It's across the street. But for me, that's,
go over what the street looked like. It was a 6-lane thoroughfare.
With turn lanes, too.
In each direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was a 4-lane. And, with an island in the middle. And the hotel was, actually a couple of blocks away. And so it was not just across the street. It was a fairly decent hike. And it was beginning to rain. It was starting to drizzle.
Right.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I'm parked in a garage. I have to go get my car. I parked it for work. So I'll go get my car. And so we said, okay, we'll wait for you. And as we're standing there waiting, I'm thinking, my mother.
We're on the sidewalk.
Yeah. My mother told me never talk to strangers, never get in a car with strangers. And here I am inviting the stranger to drive me somewhere. And he just didn't look like somebody who was going to abduct us
And he drove a Volvo. So,
and then when he pulled up in a Volvo, I said, oh, well, he should have a white van, I think, if he was going to abduct us. So I don't think a Volvo. And he took us to our hotel, which was such a great help. But my mother's voice in my head, it was almost audible. Like, you're really going to get in a car with someone you just met and bought dinner for, an hour ago? And I thought, Bob's a little hefty to steal. If he's going to this guy, was very thin and very fit. I thought, he might be fit, but Bob's a lot to steal. And I'm no lightweight either. So, I think we're safe.
Yeah.
So we got in the car and he was delightful. And I'm so glad we met him. It was just a fun thing. And
It really was. It was a fun evening.
And to my children, I don't, I'm not telling you should get in a car with a stranger, and I don't usually do this, but it worked out this time. So then our last day, we went to the plane, and we were flying Air Canada home, which was much different than Lufthansa. And I had a wheelchair, and Bob had a wheelchair.
So we had racing wheelchairs.
We did. And these two guys showed up who were part of the transport service, and they looked like Mario and Luigi from Mario Brothers. They were little guys, and they had little, everybody has a uniform for whatever they have in Italy. And they had these sort of jumpsuits with reflective vests. And they see Bob, and here we go. We have an Elvis moment again. And they say, "That's the Godfather. That's the OG, Fox Knives." I'm like, oh my gosh. You're more famous in Italy than you are in America.
That's true.
And so I said, yes, that's him. And they were beside themselves. Then they took out their phones and they're looking up pictures and they're just showing the one guy, the OG.
The knives, yeah.
Right. And so they were so excited. And their English was not very good. So we sort of had a conversation. Anyway, they were thrilled. So then they told everybody while we were waiting for one of those lifts that takes you to the plane, which the Germans should have had, but they didn't have for Lufthansa. And so this thing drives you out in this truck, and there's a lift with a box on it, with a scissor lift. And there was a couple people in there in wheelchairs, and they lifted us all up to the level of the door of the plane, and we got in there. And they, like Italians would do, they handled it beautifully. And Mario and Luigi, I don't know what their real names were, but they were so sad to see you go. I mean, you were it, baby.
They were fun to talk to. I enjoyed them.
They were. One of them, I don't know, Mario or Luigi, was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so while we were waiting for the truck to come, he was stretching on a balcony, and he could, at his age, he was about 50, he could put his ankle to his head. He was in really good shape. Anyway, so they waved us goodbye, and sorry to see us go. And I have a picture I think I posted on Instagram of you standing up in the thing. I don't know why you got out of the wheelchair. But anyway, so that was the end of our trip, and we got home, and everybody was happy to see us. We came home to a broken refrigerator, broken cable, broken coffee maker. It was kind of a crash landing, but the dogs were happy to see us, and the cats were happy to see us. I don't know about the chickens. So that was the last bit of our trip, and it was a wonderful time.
It was. We really enjoyed it.
It was a long time, and I don't know when we'll be back next. Of course, I want to go every, 5 days, but we're not. And I at one point thought of establishing residency in Italy, and they had loosened their rules about moving there and Americans. And then so many Americans moved there that they've now tightened it up again. So that's changed. So we'll just be visiting for under 6 months if I get my way. So
with fewer suitcases.
Yes. Let someone else do the laundry for a change. Anyway, so that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. Maybe in another couple episodes, we'll read some of your comments and your questions. So send some in so we're ready for that. And the one thing I wanted to say is we pre-record this. This comes out. This is recorded a couple weeks before it actually lands. I worked in episodic television, and so I believe in being 4 or 5 episodes ahead of listening. I don't know why. Maybe we'll go to a more immediate post, but I don't think we need to at this point in what we're doing. And if you're interested in being on the show, if you do something fun or unusual, go ahead and write us at TheKnifeWife podcast on Instagram or on Terzuola Design. Anything else you want to say, honey bunny?
I just want to say goodbye to everybody.
All right. Goodbye. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Adios, arrivederci.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend and subscribe where you listen to podcasts. Support our efforts through Patreon at TheKnifeWife, and for all Terzuola goodness, go to terzuola.net. And remember, if you're not laughing, you're not living. Comments and questions can be made on Instagram at The Knife Wife Podcast or our Facebook group, The Knife Wife Podcast. And if you're a couple who work together and would like to be on our podcast, tell us about yourself with an email at eccentricsuz.com or terzuola.net.